Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is the 29th of April. I don't know why. I just want to make sure it was the 29th. It's Wednesday. The spiritual gathering that for the second master of the system, Babaji, is born on the 30th of April, starting off. And I got sort of an epic follow up to why would you want someone else to die for your sins? And I talk about personal spiritual experiences with that, the way that you feel like a piece of shit when we become a spiritual burden to somebody else. Which I'll play at the end of this. I'll add to this end of this video, and the comment I want to address where somebody talks kind of about this. In my last video I talked about like this thing about people accepting that they are putting their spiritual burden on Jesus, right, and not being indoctrinated and not thinking about it. Anyways, Twitter recommended, or Twitter had a part of this clip, and I'm going to show you most of it, right? And then Erika Kirk did a tweet, and this is, kind of epic. And, one of the saving graces for me doing this job, I have a backup channel called Apocalypse Now, because the Apocalypse is funny to me. Like, it's like a built-in thing. There's things that you have in life where you think about those things, and you have different, I don't know, I say apps, like, emotional apps or things in your system, right? Like you have an app, like when you're hungry, what kind of person, like, when you physically are hungry or thirsty, like your body changes in your mind, and, all you can think about is water or food, this kind of thing. Like your hunger, your sexual appetite, when you become a sexual person, like there's a switch that's flipped, right? There's like you change, your whole orientation to life changes. You have a spiritual app when you're connected to divinity, your whole consciousness changes. You change into a different type of person, right? You have these different things, and then like there's things that you find funny, and like I have, within me, I have things that where you can't stop yourself from laughing, right? Like I really have a problem with that, like laughing at inappropriate times, and I can't fucking make myself not laugh, right? My grandfather's funeral, my favorite person was my grandfather, but I saw his body, and I'm like, he's not here. Like I was like a 10-year-old kid, and I looked at his body, and his soul is left. It was my first kind of understanding of a soul. And I'm like, that's not my grandfather. They put fucking lipstick on him. He fought in 2 world wars. Like he played professional fucking football. He was a fireman. And he was a like fucking old school tough guy. And you guys are putting lipstick on this guy? I'm like, I was like offended. And then the American Legion came in, a bunch of drunk fat fucks who couldn't fit in their uniforms anymore. One guy had a bottle, Later on I would go to the American Legion bar. My grandfather's a part of this, where all the soldiers used to get drunk on cheap alcohol, right? They had like 50-cent beers, like cans of beer, like shit like that. And they would, sit around and tell war stories. And my grandfather, they came to his funeral, and they were all drunk, and me and my dad couldn't stop laughing. It was a whole fucking thing, right? And I just couldn't stop. I mean, once I'm gone, I'm gone. Like it's happened to me in church. It's happened to me, where you get that thing where you feel almost like giddy, and it just, you can be in a bad mood, and it just changes you. And for whatever reason, things collapsing, I just find hilarious. There's this guy. Is his name Mikey Williams? Yeah, I think he was in a boy band called Take That, Robbie Williams. And I never heard his music, but the first time I ever saw the guy, he was talking about boy bands, and he said the only time it gets interesting is when the thing implodes, right? These gay boy bands, that are contrived and made up. And he was in some boy band in England. He said the only time it gets interesting is when it breaks up, right? Like other than that, it's worthless drivel, whatever. And so I was impressed by that quote enough. Years later, they released a movie of the guy's life where he's played by a monkey, like everyone else is as a person, and he's a monkey. which I thought was it was kind of well done. It wasn't like a 4-star thing, but it was entertaining. But there's something interesting about things imploding. Especially when it's a bad thing. I mean, even good things, but things end, and when things come to an end, it gets funny. Divorces, whatever it might be. It's not funny going through a divorce, but if you're watching one, and so I find the apocalypse hilarious, and it's kind of one of the things that makes it okay for me to do this, because I don't really, it doesn't affect me, because it makes me that feeling of levity or whatever humor, it just churns up. And so this is a great example of that. These two guys I called the two beta males sharing one testicle, and I call them the two twinks, right? And it's also hilarious when people who are really into being Republicans and Christians are gay, right? And maybe they don't know they're gay, or maybe they, it's whatever it is, but you know they're gay, and they are pretending they're not, but it's like that's another funny thing. So there's multiple humor with the TPUSGAY, because everyone over there seems to be gay. The guy running, Tyler Boyer, all these other people, and there's rumors about him, all this stuff. And this guy gets very riled up. We're going to get into it here.
I was actually at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, as many of you probably know by now. I didn't say much about it before the event. I was honored to be invited by a few different outlets. Went and sitting next to Harmeet Dillon. And the night was going along. It was great, having a good time, meeting a lot of old friends, saying hi to new ones. And then, while we're sitting there waiting for the food to get served, President Trump, J.D. Vance, and others on the dais, on the stage, all of a sudden, you start seeing everybody duck for cover.
Did you hear anything?
I heard essentially what I thought somebody was kind of going like that. Like I clocked something in the back of my mind.
He clocked it. He's clocking shit.
As
he took time off from staring at the waiters behind to clock something.
Maybe a tray fell, but I actually thought somebody was pounding, because it was such a raucous, cacophonous room. And I will just say,
okay. So let's just say this, because remember, Erika J. Kirk started to cry, right? Nobody in the room other than Melania Trump, who had inside information, she hid under the table almost immediately, because she knew ahead of time. Nobody in the room knew anything was going on outside. It wasn't like they heard an explosion, right? And so they're essentially got no more information than we do, right? What they experienced was, hey, there's a threat, and everyone freaking out, and then an evacuation, which is silly because they were safe inside the room, right? The threat was outside the room, and they cleared the room. And they could have said, hey, there's a disturbance outside. Please, everybody stay in the room. We'll give you more details. And they could have taken the president, the vice president, other people, and put them behind the stage, right, where they're out of range in case there was a second shooter. They didn't need to do that either, because the whole thing was a joke, and staged. But in terms of this guy and Erika Kirk, they're only reacting to what happened inside. Some people just eating their food and sitting up, and they weren't hiding, right? Some people walked out, beat Seth, whatever. Either they knew or they didn't care, because there's no real threat. There was nothing there. This is a nothing burger, right?
There's been a lot of talk about the security in that room, but for me, it was like when we were in there, you couldn't navigate. The tables were so close together that if people were sitting in the chairs, there was zero room to navigate in between. And so it was God forbid that place would have had a fire, because people would not have gotten out. Guaranteed.
You're giving people ideas, right?
A total fire hazard, I will say.
That does sound like something Trump might do. They're like, Mr. President, it's gotten too full. He's like, nah, make the event bigger.
No, I don't know.
So he's putting people in danger and packing it. He just called it a fire hazard. You're talking about danger. Trump lessened the security at the event, right? Which, already, that's something. And it's suspicious. And now it's a fire hazard, but you have all these important people in there. And so, they would have gotten Trump out, right? He's sitting in an area where he can get, access to the exit if there was a fire, right? But the rest of these motherfuckers, so, it doesn't,
Who made that kind of decision? But it was a tight squeeze.
Speaking of tight squeezes,
So essentially, you heard this noise, but you kind of just assumed there was a lot going on. Somebody dropped something or whatever. And then, little by little, starting in the back of the room, you saw people ducking underneath their...
Someone being sacrificed to Beelzebub, something going on backstage, whatever it is. Right? We don't know. Like, it's some kind of...
tables. And so, sure enough, we dove underneath our table, and you could see... The thing that I will never forget was the urgency, I would call it like a violent urgency of the Secret Service.
Yeah, like the kind of urgency that wasn't there for Charlie Kirk. You mean like that, the opposite of what you guys did for him?
Everybody dives under the table because you could hear them yelling and you could see them running, and there was they were throwing chairs to get them out of the way, and you're like, whoa, something is up.
Something's up. Something is up.
And so everybody just we dive under the table. We're there, again, time was sort of a blur, but I would assume maybe 3 to 5 minutes under the table, under the and you kind of, I'm peeking out, I'm trying to see if the coast is clear. Then it becomes...
Peekaboo.
Did President Trump get shot? Because I kind of looked up.
And it was probably a lot harder for you guys to tell.
No, we had no idea what happened, because I look up, they're all gone off the stage, and you see, tactical outfitted Secret Service on the stage, and you see them marching down the middle, and you see them. And by the way, so I was so close up to, I was essentially house left, stage right, a couple rows back from the stage, and the Secret Service came right by our table and walked on our chairs. So a Secret Service put his boot on the chair I was just sitting on as they were navigating in the room. Harmeet's head was kind of poked up a little bit. She got stepped on.
No way. Look at him. Look at this twink. Look at him. He got stepped on. Watch that shit. Look at these.
It's kind of poked up a little bit. She got stepped on. Yeah, it's a poor thing, actually. She had a welt on her head from getting stepped on. I mean,
why were you laughing about her getting stepped on, bro?
In theory, could be the next Attorney General of the United States. She got stepped on by a Secret Service that were working with such urgency, and they obviously had no idea who was at what table.
So you mean that, because of a fake event, there was, real injuries?
So eventually everything kind of calms down. I get up. Everybody starts kind of rising. I see Philip Wegman, who's with the Wall Street Journal. I said, Phil, did they get, is the president okay? Because at this point, I'm like, there was a shot that came from the back?
And there's bad reception in that room because it's underground.
There was no reception. Nobody could make phone calls. So
why the fuck was there no reception? They turned it out.
I asked Phil, I said, did they get the president? Is JD okay? Because in theory, I'm thinking, did a shot come from the back of the room and I just didn't hear it?
JD was okay because they evacuated him first, right?
And it got President Trump. Well, Phil says that they had actually he watched him get off the table. Next thing I know, Brian off the stage, so he was okay. JD, he said, I didn't see JD. Next thing I know, Brian Stelter of CNN is up on the stage with doing a selfie video. I don't know. It was
kind of like that guy that did a selfie video when Charlie Kirk was killed, and then he gave it to Candace Owens like a moron. At first, he grabbed the hologram machine or the camera that was on stage, and then he did a reaction video to Charlie Kirk getting shot, like that kind of thing.
And it's a room full of journalists, and so they're all got their cameras out doing live reporting.
I thought they didn't have reception.
I think just to record the videos.
But we know they had reception because people were calling in to CNN, and the one woman got cut off because she said that Caroline Levitt's husband was saying, hey, you better watch out. Be safe out there before the event. And then she got cut off by Fox News.
I was enjoying the
I-
split between journalists who filmed events around them and the ones taking selfies, videos
yeah.
of themselves.
So I instantly run over. I was probably about 10 tables away, 12 tables away from where Erika was seated. I ran over there as quickly as I could because it was so crammed and jammed. I could only make it over there so quickly.
Because I had to save Erika. Like, I have to save her. Like, Erika? I was like, Erika, you kill Erika? Erika, you get shot, right, Erika? I mean, that would be a tragedy.
And she had already been ushered out. I ran into Harris Faulkner, and I ran into Martha McCallum, and they said that they had seen Erika get ushered out. She was okay. Harris and Erika, I believe.
Why did she get ushered out? Like, why was she, like, part of the fucking ushered out people? Like, we saw her getting ushered out. Like, she was able to leave sooner than all the other, like, she was so important. Like, fucking, she run into a defunct company that's imploding right now.
Sort of were under the same table praying when it was all happening.
Those prayers, those prayers are so powerful.
And I mean, it was a terrifying moment. Everybody. I got a number of texts and calls. Are you okay? Poso called right away. Tyler Boyer called right away.
Tyler Boyer called. They say, hey, you were right. You right? Might come over later.
And I just, my phone was blown up. But here's the thing. I'm okay.
You're okay? Okay, bro. I was worried. I thought there was a bullet hole in the fucking back of your head. You're going to turn around. There'd be like your brains were leaking out. When somebody dropped a tray on when the Secret Service stepped on you and you haven't been the same since.
My concern in the moment was just for Erika, for Mikey, others, and, just to see the way that the reaction has been from this moment. And we're going to get into the details. We're going to get into the Secret Service, the perimeter. We have Susan Crabtree joining us next.
Crabtree. They bring it in Crabtree.
We've got a great show in store for you. But my reaction is just that as shock and horror that people are alleging that Erika's reaction was somehow, performative. Up yours.
Oh, yeah.
Up yours.
Up yours? Up yours? Yeah, everything she does is performative. Like, up yours. I didn't know this. The part that I know about is coming up. But this is great. This whole thing. Look at these.
We have Susan Crabtree joining us next. We've got a great show in store for you. But my reaction is just that as shock and horror that people are alleging that Erika's reaction was somehow, performative. Up yours.
Oh, yeah.
Up yours.
Screw those people. That's disgusting.
Secondly,
Screw those people. That's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. Those people. Up yours. Like, you guys are going to up yours each. Like, which one of you guys is the bottom is what I want to know. So the thing about it is, people can have opinions about things that look insincere. And you could say that Erika Kirk is someone who doesn't know how to act in certain circumstances, like, grieving, like she's, she just can't do it. She doesn't know how, like she doesn't have an organic reaction, but everyone knows that's the case. But let's say she does, and that's just her organic reaction, right? People get to have an opinion. There's no up yours. Like, people aren't being malicious. Like, no one knew her before she started fucking putting videos out with her hand on the dead husband's, corpse, and with these gaudy jewelry, and then filming it and putting it on Instagram, within 24 hours of his death. And then putting her crying with Usha Vance, and then giving a speech and whispering and crying and whispering and crying and fucking all the fake shit he did. Oh, she did? He did? I don't know. She, he, would fuck. Who knows? But, it is performative. But even if it wasn't, people get to have an opinion, right? Up yours. Screw you guys. Screw you guys.
But my reaction is just that I got a great show in store for you. But my reaction is just that as shock and horror that people are alleging that Erika's reaction was somehow, performative. Up yours.
Oh, yeah.
Up yours.
Screw those people. That's
Screw those people. That's disgusting.
Secondly, that this was staged to get sympathy for Trump, or even for Erika, or Turning Point. Up yours. You.
This is actually a good.
Up yours. Screw you guys. Up yours and screw you. Like, screw you guys. Up yours. Up yours and screw you. Screw you up yours. You guys are really fucking bringing the vulgarity this time. These two twinks. Again, we're not the problem. all of us who don't believe the bullshit. Like maybe this was an organic guy, but they're certainly trying to capitalize it. Trump immediately was pitching for his ballroom, wanting to get American taxpayers and approval for his fucking ballroom. That's supposed to be like the Temple of Solomon or whatever people are saying. But he did his ballroom, and they're trying to censor people. They already did. They're already censoring Jimmy Kimmel for a bullshit joke that shouldn't be censored. I mean, you're doing violating people's First Amendment rights. So they're already doing that. They're capitalizing. But let's say that that it was this guy did show up and he had this wasn't staged. But us believing it's staged is because fucking Ketchupgate was obviously staged. That was so fucking staged. And then everything else that's happened in terms of the media lying, in terms of you fucking pieces of shit lying, in terms of the rest of the, all these other people lying, we're not the problem. Like liars are the problem, right? If somebody gets caught cheating, there's going to be suspicion and trust issues. And they have to live with that, right? Like, let's say the couple stays together, unless there's some kind of transformation that the other person can see. But, there's when you violate people's trust, you can't blame them for not trusting you. We don't trust the media or the government. And it's not because we suck, it's because you suck. You're a lying piece of shit. Everybody in this club, everyone's a part of the show. We don't trust you because you guys aren't trustworthy. You're a lying piece of shit, and you're doing it now. Like, this is why we don't trust you. And so then he's going to get into it. I mean, I didn't know about the screw you and the up yours.
Like, if you are a person where it is reasonable to you that assassination attempts are faked, are staged, just stop opining on public events because your brain is too cooked by television, by movies, by memes you read on the internet.
Okay, is that a technical term? Because they're going to say your brain is cooked. This is their thing. This is their Ben Shapiro brain rot. Because they can't, debate this reasonably. Because this has nothing to do with watching TV or movies. I mean, it has something to do with information you get on the internet. It's just that Trump is a lying piece of shit. He is a lying piece of shit. And pretending that he isn't a lying piece of shit, the media, the right-wing media and you guys, so there's no trust there. We're right, it is a healthy reaction to you guys being lying pieces of shit, right? Putting out disinformation, pretending things, creating a false reality. And, everyone's been lied to by other people. It isn't just like the fucking mainstream media. It isn't just like the president and politicians. It isn't like these pieces of shit. It's like everybody. People lie and they don't even know they're lying, right? Like people believe lies and repeat lies that they've been told their whole life, and so they're indoctrinated with lies. We live in a very deceptive world. And not only, people can't be trusted because they'll manipulate you and they'll lie. People can't be trusted because they're crazy, right? And so it's completely healthy and, a natural and normal reaction to not believe any of this bullshit. Whether you can prove it's fake or not, doesn't matter. It's all a web of lies, right? All of it's a web of lies. And so to say that, our brains have been cooked, like that's just a silly way of saying anybody who's healthy and having a reaction to, what the way Trump is as a person and the fakeness that he's willing to do. He's a paid actor. He's been in movies and TV shows, reality TV shit that's all fake. And he's always been a liar and a fucking grifter. I mean, he lies as all this, like there's lies are. I mean, some guy used to count his lies in gumballs, right? And they ran out of fucking room in CNN. He had to find racks to put them on. Like Trump just lies as his default position. And so, say that we have fucking, our brains are cooked, and they're going to keep on saying that.
To think rationally about things.
Listen.
You can't think rationally about things.
Stop opining on public events because your brain is too cooked by television, by movies, by memes you read on the internet to think rationally about things.
Listen.
So we're not supposed to talk on the internet going to these guys. Like, like you're dismissing all of this shit. Like, of course, it's not going to go well. I read the comments last night when I found this video. And I don't know if they've deleted them, but last night they were savage. Because, because this is where he's going to get into his thing here.
Period.
Yeah, I understand COVID. That was a whole like op. I get it. The Russia hoax op. I get there's
Okay, so you get it. So you're saying that COVID that killed 6 million people, and but despite the deaths, I mean, there were when they shut down the world, the governments around the world, and countries that were marginalized, countries that need exports and imports. There was like something like 25,000 kids starving a day. When you do economic sanctions, kids starve. Remember, Madeleine Albright went on 60 Minutes and she said that, when they did economic sanctions against Iran and 500,000 kids, 500,000 kids starved, she said it was okay. Like it was a tough choice. So economic sanctions, which is what happened when you close down the economy like that. America was okay, but you saw how empty, grocery stores. I went to a couple of grocery stores and they were cleaned out, right? Remember the first days of COVID? But there are people like when they shut down the economy in countries where kids starved. And so, all the negativity that happened from COVID, all the censorship, all the bullshit. And you're saying it's an op, and then we're supposed to trust everything else? Trump was a part of that op. Trump rolled out Operation Warp Speed that led to the fucking vaccine bullshit. Trump closed down the economy. You're saying Trump got worked by the op? He was a part of that op, right? And so, like, why would we trust him ever again after Operation Warp Speed and closing down the economy and putting on a mask? They pressured him to put on a fucking mask. He didn't want to, but he did. And he did all that shit. And he pushed it, and the whole election went south because of it. He got so fucking worked and played, and we were supposed to trust that guy? I mean, it was embarrassment. He was the president of COVID. You're saying that's an op and that Russiagate, but those are all liberal things or, big pharma things. But we're supposed to trust everything else? Just that one thing alone would violate people's trust. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And, here.
that was a whole like op. I get it. The Russia hoax op. I get there's reasons to be distrustful and to hold elected leaders' feet to the fire. I'm all on board with that. But for real, if you are going to assume that everything is the freaking Jews or everything is some staged 5D chess move and that leftists don't want you dead, I've got about 48 minutes of clips loaded up today to prove
you wrong. I got 48 minutes of clips to prove you wrong. That it's just leftists. Leftists weren't the ones that closed down the economy. It was Trump. Leftists weren't the ones that were in charge of COVID. It was Trump. It was Trump's administration. He fucking let this happen, right? I mean, and all the shit to do with Trump, like the fucking bullshit war. I mean, it's just silly. It's the leftists. It's the fucking leftists, you guys. Just the leftists want you dead. They want to kill you all. The leftists. The leftists. I mean, there's too many leftists. All these gay leftists over there.
you wrong, to prove that you are missing the big E on the eye chart. And I said it before, but I'll say it again. When Charlie was with us, he was not afraid of the Jews. He was afraid of purple-haired jihadists that wanted him dead. He was afraid of trannies. He was
afraid of trannies. And purple-headed jihadists? Not the Jews. He wasn't afraid of the Jews at all, even though they gave him $100 million and they're like real murderers. Like they got Mossad and shit. They have like real killers. Like, they just killed 600,000 kids in Gaza. Like he's not afraid of those guys at all, even though he started to fucking turn on them and bringing Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and those people to Dave Smith. And they didn't like that shit, right? He wasn't afraid of them when they brought him out to the Hamptons and gave him a talking to for all the money they gave him, $100 million, and he turned on them. He wasn't afraid of them at all. He was afraid of purple-headed jihadists and trannies.
afraid of wild, violent assassination culture that's running amok on the left.
Oh, that's what it is. Those lefty people that have no military experience and don't own any guns, they're the dangerous ones, right? Those leftists, those furries, those crazy furries. That's what he was scared of, and that's what got him. It wasn't the Jews. It was trannies and the furries and those people. There's an army of them. They're like the Mossad, but they're leftist, purple-headed jihadists.
And if you can't get it through your freaking head yet, I have nothing for you. To Blake's point, get off the internet. You are cooked. Your brain is toast.
Look at he's laughing like they're rocking it. Look at Blake. This little fucking Twinkie gremlin. Holy shit, look at these motherfuckers, right? Okay. So that's what I saw yesterday, and it goes on from here. I'm going to continue on. We're going to take a break. I'm going to come back to this because it's great. But this thing where they say your brain is cooked, get off the internet. Like, nobody's listening to you. Like, who would listen to this guy and say, oh, he's nailing it, right? Like, who would say that? So, all right, let's go to this here. We'll get to this guy in a moment here.
Richard, I want to ask you first about the remarks from the British ambassador to the U.S. saying America's special relationship is not with the U.K., but with Israel. This is, as far as I know, it wasn't like a off-the-record fundraiser. It was an event with British students who were visiting Washington.
The UK ambassador to U.S. heard on tape saying U.S. special relationship is probably with Israel, not UK. So this was a thing that he wasn't supposed to say. Right. And this guy, Richard Haas, well, listen.
Washington. So what do you make of it?
Well, the statement that there's no longer a U.S.-UK special relationship is probably accurate. It's become more of a slogan. It is more backward-looking. And it's not, by the way, that we're having a rift. It's simply the objective importance of this relationship has faded as Britain's economic and military.
Okay, so Richard Haas is a piece of shit. He's the guy in charge of Council of Foreign Relations. This Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski's dad, was part of creating that. It's one of these international power groups, neocons. But he's not going to, and I don't know what he's going to say. But he'll excuse the part about Israel. But Israel has done a good job. It is a masterclass in demonic politics, taking American money, whether it be through people who made a lot of money here or getting taxpayer dollars to fund their shit, and buying politicians and buying media and buying, influence in America and controlling it, right? And so they are a parasitic entity that has taken control of powerful institutions in America, which has been well known for a while, and you weren't able to talk about it, and for whatever reason you're able to talk about it now, but who knows how long that'll last, because they're pushing for censorship again. Trump is now, that little bitch. He'll push it to the limit. He's doing Jimmy Kimmel's and all that shit, right? And so that's Exhibit A. So when Andrew Covert says, that do you believe that the Jews killed Charlie Kirk? Well, it's not the Jews. It's fucking Zionists, people that gave him money. It's not every Jewish person was on board with that, or it's all like, when people say the Jews, that's, it's not, it's an unsophisticated way of looking at it, right? There's a battle within every community. There's always good people and spiritual people in every community. And it's usually the people that aren't spiritual that have the money and the power. And that certainly happened in the Jewish community in Israel, right? There's people in Israel that want to have a good relationship with Palestine, but they don't win, right? They don't win, they don't have the power. But in terms of what's happened here with Charlie Kirk, there's Zionist people that gave him money, and he turned on them. And they gave him a talking to in the Hamptons, which you guys never fucking talk about because that would implicate them. And it's a much more logical, in terms of capabilities, in terms of, gay, furry, random dudes don't have the influence and the ability to penetrate any sort of security and do the kind of things that are done. And this guy hadn't killed anybody before. Tyler Robinson, these patsies. But Israel has, and Israel has influence over the American government and Trump to, do this, and Erika J. Kirk. So, it's silly. Like, this thing is silly, what this guy's saying. You guys, your brains have been fried, right? And so then there was also this. So right after I saw that video, it was a video clip of this thing I just showed you, of Andrew Covert saying, your brains have been fried, and all that stuff he just said about purple-headed jihadists, purple-haired jihadists. Saturday, Erika J. Kirk. Saturday was yet another traumatic example of evil in our country and the continued rise in political violence. I'm taking time to spend with my family. I will be joining the Charlie Kirk Show Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern to briefly address what took place. Enough is enough. So you spend Tuesday with your family? You mean your two little kids? You're spending time with your family for one day, and then you're coming on this shitty show that's imploding, right? Erika J. Kirk. Okay, so I will tune back in tonight when Erika Kirk comes on, or tomorrow morning. This video isn't going up till 2 on tomorrow on Thursday. So either way, I'll cover at the end of this video, I'll cover Erika Kirk showing up here, because that'll be good bookends. Then I'll do the rest of this video, and I'll cover more of this. So this has 6,000 views. Like this thing, right? This video has 6,000 views. The majority of them are the comments. If Erika has so many threats, why was she at the dinner with Dan Flynn running the show? We have one Kirk down and 2 bullets flying in the vicinity of the other. With TPUSGay in business, I can't believe soap operas are still on the air. If you guys didn't listen to Charlie, he told you he never trusts these guys. Bro, if it's real, it's bad security. Charlie was not scared of trans or scared of guns themselves, you fool, Andrew. The Jews, question mark? Where did that come from? The fear-mongering is wild. Hey, Blake, did you care that Terrell did the selfie video seconds after CK was offed? That was what I was referencing. It's been 7 months since we lost Charlie. What the hell is going on? The ballroom is on an underground data center. Erika fatigue is real. The laugh from the crowd after talking about killing someone in Hunger Games level creepy. Here's a nonprofit lathered in politics, laundering money of LLCs, telling viewers there's no corruption going on and their vampire ball must go on. How far removed from reality are these inept creatures? Yeah, the only thing that this thing was good for is they must be laundering money, which they've been accused of that, because like this is a 6,000 view video. You think they'd get a lot more, right? So this is connected to the Charlie Kirk assassination, this thing that just happened in the ballroom, and Erika being there and him being there. You think people would be tuning in. And the people who are tuning in are savaging them in the comment section. Another fake assassination attempt is Andrew lying again, like when he said Erika was threatened at the U of G event with JD. She was backstage crying about the low turnout and left. Okay, so, and it just goes on from there, right? I live the guy in the background moving Erika Franze after she said, I don't want to go home. I just want to go home. Whoever the guy is also tired of the cheap theatrics. They do their own play-by-play, just like when Charlie was killed. Like we're going to believe their narrative. Multiple laughing. So they're getting rolled. So they have no influence. Like you can't tell your audience that they, get off the internet and stop talking about this. And you guys your brains are fried. You can't say shit like that, right? You can't fucking say shit like that. These fucking 2 twinks. These are supposed to be influencers, right?
Freaking head yet? I have nothing for you. To Blake's point, get off the internet. You are cooked. Your brain is toast.
You can't say shit like that. Him laughing. Like, who are you laughing at? Because it's supposed to be a big tent and bringing more people in. So you've lost Tucker Carlson, who used to come and co-host, and he was, fucking Charlie Kirk's hero. He came to these events. He was there afterwards. He still says he loves Erika and he loves you guys. Blake Neff, this little fucking gremlin twink, used to work for Tucker Carlson. You've lost him and all these other people. So that's a good portion. And the people who are more intelligent and ask critical, all the people who are truthers, you've lost all those people, right? And Trump has lost them. And so you're supposed to be, bringing people in to the Republican Party, to Trump and MAGA, and to Christianity. And you're pissing people off and people are leaving all of those things, right? I mean, maybe not as much Christianity, but the other 2 things. And you're supposed to be bringing people in, and you're being paid to influence people. Nobody watches your shit. Nobody likes you. Like, your fucking show is fucking cooked, right? And you keep on telling your audience they're full of shit, and they keep on, the people who used to be their audience. And now people are coming in just to laugh at you and troll you. And who's listening to you? Who's going, oh my God, you're right, my brain is cooked. Thank you, Andrew. Like, who's fucking out there listening to you? I mean, who's out there believing what you're saying? Almost nobody. Erika's unlikable. You guys have lost, and you're still out there like you're relevant. You're irrelevant. Oh, the only thing is you guys have money coming in through money laundering. That would be the only excuse, the only way this is working. This has nothing to do with, you're no longer about political influence or about winning people over. Nobody's coming to your events. I mean, there's a dwindling audience, and you guys can't carry the show, and you're completely unlikable. You can't do this. You can't go and tell your people they're full of shit, right? Especially when you're wrong. Like, even when you're right, if you're a political act, if you're bringing in people to, your point of view, you're influencing them. You can't do shit like this, right? And you do it all the time. And they're like, fucking, you've lost it.
Wake up. We have put up with deranged leftists, politicians going to No Kings rallies where they're holding signs saying, kill all tyrants, they all must die. We have Hassan Piker saying, blood in the streets. We have Destiny saying conservatives should be terrified of being...
Yeah, this limp dick things they're saying. No, they say all that shit, right? They write things like that, but they're not going to do anything about it. That's why they're protesting, holding up the signs. I mean, the Republicans are much better armed, and there's a lot more military and police that are Republicans that are on that side of the, the viewpoint of the aisle, and it's just silly. Like, what are you talking about? They're holding up signs, just like they said in Iran, death to America. It doesn't mean anything. It's completely fucking limp dick. It's impotent. There's nothing there, right?
In public.
As people were walking out of this event, they passed people with signs that said, kill all of them, death to tyrants.
Death to tyrants.
And those people knew what had happened, and they either made those signs in response to what happened, or they decided to wave them anyway.
Okay, the leftists do not care about you guys at all. I mean, they're obsessed with Trump or whatever. The No Kings rallies, there's nothing there. There was the protests that went on that happened that were Antifa. That was something different. That was staged and whatever. Like, yeah, most people get a sense of it. But they're not seen as the real problem. Trump is. They're not the one creating the Iran war. They didn't murder all those children in Gaza. Like, it's silly to claim that those people are more murderous than the people that you bow down to, right? That you're on your knees for, licking taint.
That is the kind of people you are dealing with.
And we've been putting up with it in this country like it's nothing. Like, this is just the new normal. It can't be. And here's what I love about Noble.
So this is like they go right into a gold commercial. No, who's going to buy something through this? They're not. Like, they're not fucking nobody. I mean, this is great there.
Gold is, when people are going to buy precious metals, and we can talk about why they should and why they should consider it as part of their portfolio, and we will. But here's what I know. You are honest and trustworthy.
You are. You just are. Like, because you are. Since these two twinks are, we know this guy is, because they're vouching for him. And Charlie Kirk's behind there, putting his gay fist in the air.
You have integrity. People love doing business with your company, and you charge. People don't realize this. There's a lot of shysters out there.
Yeah.
Where, like, if you
shysters, what a shyster? What kind of fucking anti-Semitic statement is that, shyster?
buy this much gold, they mark it up a long way, and then you, as in the audience that thought you were getting an investment vehicle, gold's got to like double in value before you make your money back. That's not what happens at Noble Gold. You guys are like the industry leader as far as fairness on the pricing, and that's how awesome you guys are.
It's just so awesome. You guys so awesome. You're so awesome. Your brain hasn't been cooked by the internet. You're so awesome.
The politicians, the Democrats aren't going to say anything because guess what? They'll get primaried if they do. They know that, so they stay quiet and they blame Trump, like cowards.
Like cowards. The cowards. They get primary. The cowards. And so he just keeps on going here.
So who was this guy? Cole Allen. Real peach of an individual. Well,
he's pretty peachy. So peachy, that guy.
He was a teacher from California. Donated to Kamala Harris. He was a member of a group called the Wide Awakes.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Woo. Let's look into that. Woo.
Attended a No Kings protest.
No way. Those No King protesters, every time I see the No King protesters, either, video of it or they're all smiling and laughing. I mean, it's annoying. They're so annoying, but they're not any real threats. A bunch of fucking dumb fucks out there pretending they're stupid protest is going to affect the,
Rabid leftist poster on Blue Sky who like to interact with Will Stancil there. He wrote an anti-Trump manifesto, and Blake's gonna go
We've
through
got it
some
right
of that.
here. It's interesting. So, honestly I find the character of this Cole guy a little troubling, just in the sense that he doesn't have the biography you might often expect from a
Yeah, they don't give him they don't give him the usual profile that they give him.
presidential assassin. He's not a 19, 20-year-old.
No, he's indiscernible from Ana Navarro on
this
CNN.
is a guy, he had a job, seemed obviously like radical, but he's not this non-functional type who, everyone said,
Just sits around, some loser, some pathy that sits around that has no life and like it's almost like they just made the guy up and like there's no backstory, there's no nothing. Like this guy has got like a real life and he had a job and his people and he sound reasonable in his manifesto. I don't even know about this guy. All right, so these guys, they're like this thing's imploded, but they're obviously getting funded. Like they're still going. Like Erika Kirk's going to show up, and they're still going. They don't have an audience. They don't get people at their events anymore. They're losing chapters. Like they're, I think they're probably down 70% of their, maybe 80 or 9. I don't even know, like how much audience they've lost. Like it seems like they lost all of it here. I know they have their own stuff on Spotify and these other things, but the people aren't listening. No one likes these guys. There's no longer any influence. I mean, whatever exists of TPUSGay, there's no enthusiasm, there's no energy, and so it's nothing. But yet they're still going somehow. They have a big organization. They're still raking in money, and so money laundering is like the only reasonable explanation. That they don't care about pissing off their audience because they're laundering money and they're doing whatever they're doing. I mean, Charlie Kirk's job was to go to college campuses and defend Israel's genocide. That was his job. He got hundreds of millions of dollars. And, why would Israel pay them now when Israel's getting fucking tagged left and right? I mean, they've lost the battle of, public perception. I mean, these guys had two of their chapters from two different colleges. And both the guys said that both the right and the left on campus, kids, were all against Israel. So that's already done. And so, you can't sell that anymore. Charlie couldn't even sell it. And he wasn't trying to. That's why he's dead, right? And so, all right, there's that. Okay, so this video got recommended to me this morning, so I thought it was interesting. The title of it, Ex-CIA Agent's Thoughts on Charlie Kirk Assassination. Now, Tucker Carlson had this ex-CIA agent on. Tucker Carlson's long been rumored. His dad worked for the CIA to be a part of it, right? So that's that. This guy was talking, I watched a little bit at the beginning of the interview. He was talking, or some clip or whatever. He was talking about how when he was with Bush and these other people, of course, Bush with the 9/11 bullshit thing, that they had to go through certain protocols before going to war, and Trump didn't do that. And I think, But here is, this is the piece that's interesting here.
Out.
So first, before we get to this, I didn't hear this part, but, so, again, taking this with a grain of salt, two CIA guys talking on the internet with an agenda, right? But, the thing we call the show. I don't think Trump is in on as much thing. Like, I think we're watching these, we like those Joe Schmo shows where it's a reality TV show where, there's two people that aren't in on the show, right? And, it's pretty funny. You have to believe that the people aren't in on it, and usually they seem pretty stupid, so, there's that. But Trump is like Joe Schmo, where they let him in on some of the things. But Trump isn't curious. He doesn't look into things. He gets most of his news most of his information from Fox News, kind of listens to the briefings. And, I kind of got to believe he was in on the whole Butler thing. Because fight, that whole thing, he would, if he thought it was real, then there would be that. But let's say he wasn't in on these things. And he might think it might be Israel, and he might think it might be Iran. But, Iran has killing Trump would be one thing, but threatening him would be something else. Threatening him would lead to war. Where Israel could say, hey, this is our way of getting you. We have information on you. We have, other ways other than an assassination attempt, whatever. But, either way, Trump could be easily coerced because he's all about himself and his his existence and his what's better for Trump, not make America great again, make Trump great again. So he could be influenced. But if this was true, that Iran was behind these things, or not Iran, they told him that Iran was behind these things, then that could be a reason Trump would go to war, right? But it's silly because a war over there doesn't stop things from happening over here, right? So I don't know, but Trump doesn't make much sense. And who's to say what's happening? I think it's more likely that Israel's blackmailing him, but it is something to consider, right?
To Joe Kent and his brave actions and revelations, that he was not permitted to follow up on these leads. Well, call me a conspiracy theorist, but that's the only place I can go.
Well, what's the answer?
There had to be some sort of a...
What's the other answer? I mean, I want to find another answer. I don't want to have any thoughts like this. Charlie, of course, was a good friend of mine.
He was a good friend of yours.
But even if he wasn't, I live in this country. But what...
Yeah.
Are there any good answers to that question?
No. There's...
Okay, so it's Trump's in on it. That's what be in it, or he's controlled. Trump is in on it as much as Trump cares to be in on it, or as much as they'll allow Trump to be in on it. But Trump gets to do and brag and do his bullshit and do his things, and they just guide him. Trump is the easiest person. Like, all you have to do is compliment him, right, to win him over. Like he said that he'd defend a bad person who's nice to him. And, that's the only thing you have to do to win him over. And then to provoke him, you don't have to do this and, that, or like mild stuff. You only have to, like, hint that you criticize him and he'll turn on you. So, they can point Trump in any direction and he'll just go. Right? And they know how to fucking work that guy more than anything else. And, in whatever level he's in on it. I mean, who gives a shit, right? But it's interesting that Tucker Carlson's talking about Charlie Kirk in this way. And this guy is. Because Charlie Kirk Tucker has always been kind of leaning towards supporting TPUSGay and Erika Kirk, but like that just isn't the case anymore. And so if you've lost Tucker, who has a much bigger audience, and you've lost all these other people, and Candace is completely out there, her whole life revolves around shitting on Erika and TPUSGay. I mean, they're, like this is bad for them. Like you couldn't be more underwater than they are. All right, so we'll come back to Erika later. I got other memes and stuff here. Security at the White House Correspondents' Dinner is a Cheeto. So there's some good memes here. I think there's another one here. There's Trump, Washington. This was the ballroom. The ballroom, BAAL room. That was the caption. This story has pretty much died down. Because these stories that don't, there's no real victim here. There's nothing really to grab onto. There's no interest in it. Republicans are trying to make a big deal about it. No one gives a shit. Trump's lost his mojo. He's losing his fucking base. It's just, the whole thing. These stories just disappear. I mean, the thing that happened in Butler, it was much more dramatic. Trump with the fake, the ketchup on his ear and all that bullshit. And then, the convention after that and him saying fight, fight, fight. But it just died. The story didn't go anywhere, right? The Charlie Kirk was much more lasting story. Charlie Kirk was actually, looked like he was dead based on what we saw in the video. And then all that went with it, right? And so, these stories that are but even then, the thing dies out. Like, these things just don't last. But especially the ones that are so obviously fake and when people believe they're staged and people don't care. And this is all of those things. Like, Trump's, this whole thing has just gone into a nothing burger and almost instantaneously. They're not even rolling out information, and it's not even what they're covering at the beginning of the news and things like that, right? And now the king's in town, like all that shit, right? At some point, they're going to have to cover Iran again. Like, they're going to have to talk about Iran. So Camilla is over here shaking everybody's hand. Watch Trump just cut in front of her here. Like, holy shit. You know, King Charles gave Trump a few zingers at the event. I don't even want to play it. It's so gay. It's not as gay as J.D. Vance, but pretty gay. Let's just scroll through Twitter. This is Blake Neff's thing.
Faked, are staged. Just stop opining on public events.
We saw this already. Here's a comic of Trump in the ballroom. That guy, here he is. This is a real photo. I don't care if Trump is a pedophile with a Trump. Imagine walking into New York business when Palestine flag waves. A horde of Israelis just instantly goes full psycho, screaming, foaming, completely unhinged like rabid dogs.
No entitlement of privacy in public, all right? Do me a favor and just leave.
She just wants my phone. It's on video.
Okay.
Call the Palestine
Ma'am.
police. What?
You have no entitlement of privacy in public, all right?
You're
Do me a favor and just leave.
Yeah. Free bitches! Israel wanted to commit genocide. They would have killed everyone there.
You're an animal.
Can you say kill it? Palestinians hate you. The real Palestinians are against you because you.
All right, so I guess they're losing their shit there. I think there must be in Israel, but they said New York. I don't know. There he is backstage looking out like a creep. National cameras used for national security. My $100 Ring camera. So, my wife sent me something with the Benny Hill thing. I don't think I have that one. And they copyright when they play. Look at, she just doesn't want any part of them. She's fucking, she doesn't even like hold hands with them, right? Something there.
At an event back in November, and Candace, fact check me if I'm wrong. I think I hired you 4.5 minutes after I met you.
I think it was 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes.
It was very aggressive. He was like, "You sit down, stay here. I'm going to get you a contract. I need you to sign the contract and get it back to me."
All
I
right,
was
sign
like, okay,
right here. DocuSign. It's okay. You never heard of it. Just right here. Just
yeah,
initial.
just write your name. I just need you to move your finger, and the deal was done. And the rest, as we say, is history in the making.
It's
actually.
history.
Well, they both suck so bad. Secret Service disappearing hat trick. So there's that.
President Trump is that he should recognize the big difference between real Jews and false Jews. And if he wants to help Jews, the help is to destroy Israel totally. That's the biggest help. And for the American people, we will say also same thing. Please recognize the difference that this terrible state is not a Jewish state, and it's not a help for the Jews. It's the opposite. It's the biggest problem. It's the number one danger for Jewish people.
Well, that's for sure. Some kind of puppy. I'm getting lots of puppy videos. I asked Trump's spiritual advisor what key to happiness is. Money, give it to me, all of it. I voted for Trump because I wanted war with Iran and higher gas prices. I love Israel. Always become before America. The big, beautiful ballroom. The Tesla in parking lot after hearing me talk shit about Israel. Right? Turns into a weapon. Another puppy video there. Fucking kind of gay show from that dude. Look at this. Look at this fucking AI video of a dolphin surfing with this woman. I guess that's it for the Trump shit. All right. So, okay. So this is CNN. UAE could make $50 billion yearly by leaving OPEC, and analyst. Trump FCC seeking political retribution against Jimmy Kimmel, ABC. Trump FCC challenges ABC's licenses amid Kimmel controversy. We ran out of money inside Venmo's near collapse. Trump's DOJ indicts ex-FBI Director Conway a second time. UAE exit OPEC, gas prices spike to highest in 4 years. Well, that's not good. Kimmel pushes back about Melania Trump urging his firing. Wild West of AI, a conversation with Mercedes Kilmer. Debate in White House right blames Trump Democratic rhetoric. So they're not even, like, the shooter isn't even a story. Then here on Fox News, FBI raids spark clash with Tim Walz over fraud crackdown. Developing Trump preparing to extend blockade on Iran. General Keane, Trump is not going to take this. And I'll show you a little bit of that video. U.S. military must go all the way to bring Iran's regime down. Details: Conway indicted again for allegedly threatening something. Bongino warns Jeffries is not kidding about this. So there's nothing here, right? This outrage about Kimmel, that's, or whatever, or the censorship if you're CNN, outrage if you're Fox. But this story is dead, right? So it's not even a real fucking story. And so this thing that they say up here, this General Keane, Trump is not going to take this. Iran has just informed us that they are in a state of collapse. They want us to open the Strait Hormuz. They open the Hormuz Strait as soon as possible, as they try to figure out their leadership situation, which I believe they will be able to do. Thanks for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Like, why is that even? Why would they say that? We're in a state of collapse. So please negotiate with us and be fair. Like, why would you give up all your leverage, right? Like, Iran has just informed us they are in a state of collapse. Like, you have no idea what's going on. And you think they're just going to figure out their leadership in the middle of a war? And if a government collapses, there's no, rule of law. There's no system. There's no democracy. There's no communism. There's no economic system. They're in a state of collapse. There's no government, right? You just have people with guns and thugs, and there's no authority. Governments suck, and because it's run by corruption and people, but it's better than chaos. I say this all the time. And we've seen what happens when governments collapse, and it's never good. Things always get worse. It's destabilizing. And, this, as soon as possible, they try to, as they try to figure out their leadership situation, which I believe they will be able to do. Why would they be able to do that? Well, historically, that's never happened, right? And so if they are in a state of collapse, then you're going to have to send in fucking ground troops. Like, if this is real, it's never real because Trump's a lying sack of shit. But if they don't have any kind of leadership, you can't make a deal. And even if they have temporary leadership, you can't make a deal because 2 weeks from now, it might be a totally different government, right? When America took them down before, they had a democratically elected, moderate government where people would dress in normal clothing. There's no religious fucking bullshit. And they took that guy Mossadegh down and put in the Shah, and that didn't last, and now they have what they have, which, is supposed to be the worst government in the world, one of the excesses of evil, according to Bush and Trump and all these people. So you think it's going to be better than what they have? No, it's going to be worse, right? At least they have some kind of authority, some kind of, continuity, some kind of, there's something. Even with weak governments lead to thug rule, right? Lead to criminal behavior. And so as bad as governments are, without a government, it's way worse. And so, this tweet is telling you everything you need to know. Because if this was true, either Trump's a complete lying piece of shit, which is true, and none of this happened, and he doesn't have a grasp of what's going on. They just informed us they are in a state of collapse. Who informed you? Like the non-existent government, right? Like, who's in charge of, is it cities? What is going on here? And they're also talking about how the dollar, the economy has collapsed in Iran. Like Fox News, and when that happens, children starve. And so, that's, they're celebrating that. This is a fucking disaster. Because Iran's going to be worse, and the Strait of Hormuz is always going to be under threat. So you're going to have to put in military fucking ground troops. And they still have a military. Their military still exists. And so, they have a plan. And all of this is like, I mean, he's just lost he's lost a grip of reality and this situation. And so, like, look at this picture. This fucking tough guy. So, Donald J. Trump, real Donald J. Trump. I mean, all right. So there's that. That's what's going on right now with Iran. It's getting more and more obvious that Erika Kirk is just she's playing a role to be just an absolute. I mean, I don't think it comes to her naturally. But look at the way she's dressed. Like, what is she, a fucking Sandinista? Or like, she's some kind of, she's all dressed in black, like she's gonna, what is she, a ninja? That black hat on, right? They're not putting this video up on YouTube because I would suppose they'd have to turn the comments off because she'd get roasted. And I'm not gonna. This one's 8 minutes long. I don't know what's this all about. I don't know how long she was on there, but 8 minutes is more than enough. We're not probably gonna get through all of this. But you just look at the way she's dressed. Like, come on. She's dressed always very oddly, and she's so fucking weird. At this point, she's just. I mean, this is got to be intentional. Like, I don't think somebody could suck this bad. I mean, people suck, but not like this, right? But here.
Seems to me that nothing will ever be enough for the evil in this world. Our country has become unrecognizable. These people have perverted the truth to the point that they motivated the murder of my husband.
Okay. Let me see if I can find one where they actually got the lips in the fucking speech to match. Okay, so she's not a very good actress. I mean, she's definitely contrived and staged. I mean, this whole thing. But, like, did they expect her to be a better griever? Like, did they say, all right, you suck, let's lean into that. Everyone hates you and you're just a disaster. She put this up on her own. This is her speech she's given on Twitter. So she's releasing this on Twitter. She's not doing an interview with the other clowns, the two gay dudes. So this is her whole speech. So it's an 8-minute speech. Maybe we'll get through it, maybe we won't. But this is directly from her page.
Seems to me that nothing will ever be enough for the evil in this world. Our country has become unrecognizable.
So what does that mean? It'll never be enough for evil. Like, evil's like, all right, I'm good. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, what is this evil that you're talking about? Are you talking about a condition of evil? Are you talking about demonic possession in people? What do you mean by, like, the selfishness, the greed, I mean, that's not, these are characteristics of people. But anyways.
People have perverted the truth to the point that they motivated the murder of my husband.
So you think that they perverted the truth, which motivated the murder. If people didn't pervert the truth, that furry-loving dude wouldn't have killed your husband? Like, he was just, somebody incapable of making his own decision, being responsible? I mean, like, I'm pretty sure she's going to get roasted here as well, so I don't know why they didn't post this on the YouTube channel.
They have continuously tried to assassinate the president, and anyone who stands in their way is labeled hateful, racist, fascist, and every other trigger word that is grossly dishonest.
Grossly dishonest. I mean, you can't, like, fake those crazy eyes. Like, that's the kind of crazy that, those, unless those are contacts. Like, that kind of fucking crazy. Look, this crazy. I mean, she just lost her shit, right?
We want the best for our country. They don't. This is why Charlie started Turning Point USA in the first place.
She's got freedom and you can't even read it, right?
Didn't trust the radicalized liberal teachers. And this past Saturday, it was a school teacher, of all people, a school teacher, that attempted to change our history for the worst with bullets.
No way. The fucking school teachers. Charlie was right. Charlie was right about those fucking school teachers.
And everyone is asking why I even went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And it was because many of the journalists in that room have attempted to dehumanize me. And I wanted to meet some of them face to face, quite frankly.
You did? All the people that are fucking saying shit about you. Nobody said shit about you. Like, none of those journalists say anything about you. You're getting ripped by people on the, and mostly right-wing people on social media. They don't care about you, right? The liberals don't care about you. Like, they make fun of you. You're a joke. They might have been concerned about TPUSGay when it was, partially responsible for electing Trump. Like, yeah, all right, they cared about it then. Liberals don't care about it now, so you guys stop with the liberal bullshit. Like, they're barely, some of them celebrated your husband's death, some of that shit. But then they were gone. The people that are really ripping you are right-wing people. People who used to believe in you or your husband, and then all the rest of it. People used to believe in Trump. I mean, Candace Owens' audience isn't left-wing people, and it certainly isn't journalists. I look at MSNBC and CNN all the time. They never talk about Erika Kirk. I think they've featured her in like 3 videos. I mean, occasionally she'll show up there and they're covering Trump and something, but you're non-existent to the fucking left-wing media. Like, name one journalist you wanted to look them in the eye and say, this person has mischaracterized me. You're getting truth on the internet, right?
Why have a conversation about me when you can have a conversation with me?
Wow. Amazing.
So, for example, a journalist from the Daily Mail came up to me. She introduced herself.
You mean the Daily fucking Mail? I mean, none of these people are real journalists, but the Daily Mail is like a gossip page. Yeah, of course. I mean, Page 6 isn't going to cover you because they're right-wing leaning. But the Daily Mail, all right, so that's it. Like, that's what you're talking about, the Daily Mail? You went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner to talk to somebody at the Daily Mail? Why didn't you just go to the Daily Mail?
And she was very gracious. She was saying, you look so beautiful. I'm so sorry for your loss. To which I replied, it is so nice to put a name to the face.
Boom. Zinger. Kazamo. Kablowy. Kablamo.
Especially with all of the slander, the lies, accusations that are out there surrounding my husband's murder and myself. And I said to her, you know what's so interesting?
This conversation actually happened. Was there a person actually from the Daily Mail? Did the Daily Mail get invited there? And you think that she'd walk up and talk to Erika Kirk? Right? Like, it's just really happened? Like, it sounds like a thing Trump would say. Some bullshit thing he would say.
This is my first time at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And I find it so fascinating, the dynamic that is going on right now, because everyone is all dressed up and you guys are co-mingling in and out of each other's cocktail parties. And so for one night, you are able to put aside all of your differences for the sake of freedom of speech. And then by Monday morning, things will go back to being an absolute bloodbath between all of you. To which she replied, literally, she said, I know. Isn't it special, right?
Wow. You're so deep. You have such deep thoughts, Erika.
Isn't tonight so special?
It's so special.
And following that conversation, it was time to take our seats, and we went into the big ballroom where the dinner was. And one of the first things I noticed when I walked into that room was quite literally the proximity of the opposing outlets to one another. So you have one table here that's Politico, and another table here that's Fox, and another table here that's WAPO, and you're all crammed together, elbow to elbow. And to make the night even more of a spectacle, every single 10-person table had 10 bottles of wine.
Crazy. They're all drunk. It's crazy, the abuse of alcohol. There's no Shabbat Shalom, Daddy's home, throw the phone in the junk drawer.
And the president of the White House Correspondents Association, she did a great job of trying to make the evening have that feeling of Americana. We were in a...
No, like, come on, like, the thing's a fucking joke. And Trump didn't even participate in the roast, and he weaseled out of it like a kid playing hooky from school with some bullshit fucking thing that happened. And he was going to roast all these journalists. I mean, like, it's just a sad fucking pathetic take that you have here.
Celebrating freedom of speech despite our differences. And the U.S. Marine Band performed the national anthem so beautifully.
Oh, my God. I heard it. It was like angels were singing.
And then shortly thereafter, gunshots rang out and Total chaos ensued.
Wait a minute. What do you mean gunshots rang out? Not one person said they heard gunshots. Do you have special hearing, along with your incredible hypnotic evil eyes, right? Like, do you have special fucking cunt hearing?
And you guys have all seen what happened next because there are 1,000 videos of it. So let's discuss that fact for a second.
Let's discuss it, shall we?
If you were in that room, you had no way of knowing what the status of the shooter was, how many there were, or honestly, really anything. It was just utter chaos.
You mean like his first thing with Butler? When the Secret Service let him pop his head up and say, fight, 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 in an unsecure grounds and crowd where there could have been 10 shooters or at least one more in the audience. And the Secret Service let him walk to the car where his head was exposed, his body was exposed to more shooting. You know, that fucking thing, right? Like that. You guys, nobody called bullshit on fucking that, and the ketchup gate and the trial, just whatever.
And so during an active shooting, these journalists are using their phones to find moments to capture for clips. They were so concerned about getting a video in a room with an active shooter that they could have accidentally and quite literally filmed themselves being shot.
It's nuts. Those journalists are fucking crazy.
Many of those people have become so desensitized that fight or flight became secondary to the opportunity of putting themselves into the story, which ironically breaks the #1 rule of journalism.
Boom.
And again, ironically enough, the shooter was a teacher.
Boom. And these wonderful journalists that you talk about, but you are the most official story person ever, right? I mean, obviously not the left-wing version of it, but the reality of it is, like, all these journalists suck. They're all horrible. Half the people didn't even care, and the thing was a fucking joke. And they let you out to where there was an active shooter, or at least they claimed there was. Yeah, you guys were safe inside, but they brought everyone out into the area outside of the room where there was possibly an active shooter. You know, so, like, just silly. I mean, the whole thing is silly, and she's just a fucking disaster.
You have these people who are supposed to be teaching our children the future of this country, and he's so unhinged that he is able to teach children by day and then attempt to murder the president of the United States by night.
He sounds like a superhero. By day, he's an ordinary school teacher. By night, he's super assassin. This guy, I mean, there's a movie in there somewhere. Anyways, you're making it sound like he represents all teachers. You know, how many hundreds of thousands? There's got to be millions of teachers. I mean, millions. Tens of millions of teachers, right? I mean, if you talk about, you know, I mean, anybody who could be considered an instructor or teacher. I mean, this is like, you know, if you just limit it to regular school children, you know, there's probably millions. I don't even know. I could ask ChatGPT. And this is one person, right? Part-time teacher.
And in his manifesto, he starts by contextualizing himself by saying, I am a citizen of the United States of America.
Boom.
And while we may have big problems with illegal immigration in this country, I have to tell you, we have an even bigger problem when it comes to the systemic indoctrination and radicalization of our own citizens.
Boom. Bringing it. You know, nobody cares about the left anymore in terms of the Republican MAGA people. There's people who still believe in Trump, and it's a fucking whatever. It's a shrinking set of dumbasses that nobody gives a shit about, that are, you know, are basically show themselves to be incapable of seeing reality. And whatever is left of your audience, right, which you're, I guess, pandering to. I mean, there's maybe no audience at all. This is just a way to pretend that she's relevant so they can continue to launder money. But whatever it is, right, whatever's going on here, the majority of people who, you know, like the Tucker Carlsons, who, you know, you claim to be a friend, who Charlie looked up to, and all these people who are now bailing on Trump and MAGA and are scrambling, and all the people that follow them, all the people that are doing that, right, those are the people that you're, I mean, it's not the radical left. You're no longer, you know, worthy of their attention, right? Like they're like, oh, you're not popular enough. Don't have as much influence that we can hate you. Like, you know, they laugh at you. They think it's great. You know, like you're somebody that they can they can just meme and shit like that when they get bored, but like someone no one cares about, right? Like nobody's worried about Erika J. Kirk. Like she's just, a person that's there as a target, right? Like he's somebody that they can, use like AOC, or the way the right uses AOC and the left use Marjorie Taylor Greene.
This is what got my husband killed.
Oh my God.
This is what has led to 3 legitimate attempts on President Trump's life.
So sad.
And I can speak firsthand to that unbearable toll that this must take on our First Lady.
She's so wonderful. And you're so deep.
There has never been a president who has faced this many assassination attempts in Americans' entire history.
Okay, so some guy with machine guns in the bushes in a golf course, which, Trump golf course, the bullshit thing, the Ketchupgate thing at Butler, and some guy who was outside. I mean, they can't call that assassination attempt, right? The only thing that they can call, which was fake as fuck, was the Butler thing. Where they bullshit thing about a bullet hitting his ear. I mean, it's just, Ketchupgate and Band-Aid Gate.
And after each one, the reaction from the far left has been, at best, a shrug, and in some cases, a sick disappointment that the shooter was unsuccessful.
I mean, you're still making it like, the far left is, again, like there's just nothing there. What is the far left? Like no one gives a shit about right now. If Joe Biden, when Democrats are president again, when the Democrats have the presidency and the House and the Senate, and there's a swing to the left, yeah, everyone's going to be pissed about it. But right now, it's everyone's focused on Trump, and certainly, the people that the audience that you've lost aren't, hearing this lefty bullshit.
We are all human beings.
Are we?
And if you can just pause and just take a minute and ask yourself, how would you feel if even just one person made cruel jokes about the attempted murder of your loved one?
Yes, like that. You mean like you? We all got to pretend that we're you for a moment. I don't think most people had to do that.
That is what Jimmy Kimmel did to the First Lady.
Oh, no way. No way. Did he do that? Wow, that was unbelievable.
He said that she had the glow of an expected widow.
Boom. Oh my God, that's so horrible. What a fucking mean joke. Those lefties and their horrible jokes. It's a horrible joke, not because of the like Melania doesn't hate Donald. Like Melania loves Donald so much. Look at her. Boom. Oh, she did it right there. Let's go back. That was fucked up. Like there she does the crazy eyes.
Of an expected widow.
Wow. That was fucking brutal.
The glow of an expected widow. Just 48 hours before that nightmare almost became a reality.
No, like that's not, you can't even call that I mean, the guy got into the room, the chances of him being he wasn't even close to getting in the room. It was silly, and it's not, I mean, it's fake as fuck, but come on.
In this culture we're living in, absorbs disagreement as a form of personal betrayal.
Okay, so, if she was really serious about this, she would be appealing to people on the left to stop sucking. But she has to then be able to take in their version of reality, which is Trump is a lying sack of shit, which is true. Just like the left would you would want to talk to them about how Joe Biden was senile. But if you're not going to take accountability or responsibility for all the bullshit that you are, all the fake crying, all the bullshit you are as a person, and all the bullshit your husband pitched, and the fact that he got hundreds of millions of dollars from Israel to tell college kids they were wrong to be upset about genocide, Charlie Shekels. So like nobody wants to hear that shit, right? And so the left isn't going to listen to you. So who is this for? Like, who do you think you're reaching here? What is this purpose of this? Who believes what you believe, right? You have like some like fucking small amount of fans, right? I mean, dressing up with a fucking hat, the black hat that says freedom, that's hard to even read, and this whatever frickin' polyester Sandinista blouse. I mean, what the fuck is this, right? What the fuck is this? What's happening? Whoa, what's going on here?
It turns having an opposing viewpoint into a moral crime worthy of punishment. And here's what I've realized through all of this.
What is it? It's going to be profound and deep.
Truly, having lived through quite literal hell these past 7 months.
It's just, I've just been in hell.
If you strip someone of their humanity long enough, you will arrive at the chilling conclusion that they don't deserve to exist at all.
Boom.
Every morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me.
Okay. You don't have to look at them, but there's no headlines. If you're talking about the Daily Mail, I don't know, what other publications have Erika Kirk stuff? I've seen stuff in the Daily Mail when she brought it up. I can't think of anything else. I mean, there's stuff, if you're talking about Candace Owens in terms of the headline, why you read that shit? If you're not going to, do anything about it, why are you listening to it if it's lies, right? Why are you tuning into it? And then why you keep on going back out there? You've lost whatever was TPUSGay. You've lost it. It's gone. Like whatever Charlie had, it's been destroyed by you and your crappy the two beta males sharing one testicle, those guys, and the rest of it. Like you've lost it. Like you've lost your audience. You've failed. People judge you. You're this person. You're just always going to be this person. You can't remake yourself. You're not likable. You're like a Hillary Clinton, but Hillary Clinton had support and was married to a president, and she had some kind of political backing. Like nobody's going. You're not going to be a politician. You're not going to be a pastor. I mean, you could be the owner of this thing and just whatever. Like just let it go. Stop appearing in public. The best thing you could do is disappear. I said this to Alec and Hilaria Baldwin. They might have watched some of my stuff when I was really hammering them. And I kept on saying, why are you guys posting on social media? Just fucking stop, right? Just go away. Like the best thing you can do is go. Nothing you can say is going to make things better. And it's always going to make things worse. And so the only thing you can do is make things worse by constantly going out there and doing shit like this, right? Little Miss Frowny Face. Little Miss Frowny Face.
I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO, and I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband.
Boom.
And the list goes on and on and on.
So how much of this is about you being a victim? Like, you're a victim of your own unlikability, right? I mean, again, I hope this is just a character. I mean, just because I can't believe how bad someone could suck, right? But why would you come, you're being mocked because you're mockable. They're not mocking you because your husband died. They're mocking you because when you cried and you gave speeches days after your husband died and it was so fucking fake, immediately people are like, holy shit. And a lot of those people were right-wing people, Charlie Kirk fans, who immediately took a disliking to you. And they didn't say things right away, but they were like, holy shit, who's this bitch? Nobody knew who you were. And then it just started coming out, right? I mean, just all the videos. I mean, I've made 40, I don't know how many videos I've made on this thing, right? And so, comedians in whiteface. I mean, and that thing was not really that funny. It wasn't that great. But it was at least somewhat accurate. And he's not the only dude that dressed up like you. There's a white guy who dressed up like you, too. There's a white drag queen that got you. And then, the rest of this. A comedian in whiteface. And what was the other thing? I missed it. Let's go back. This is the big moment.
Owens claiming every morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO, and I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on.
Okay, you're not CEO. You're not qualified to be CEO because your company is fucking imploded. I don't think there's ever been a quicker implosion of a company. I don't know what's going on financially, but it's a company that needs fans, that needs to influence people. And so other than laundering money, there's no way this thing could be going anywhere. I mean, you have to, I mean, Israel's not going to give you money to vouch for them when they've lost the PR battle already, and people don't have any leverage anyway. Americans don't have any leverage anyway. They own Trump. And you don't have anybody that watches you or believes in you or thinks good things about you. I mean, you handful of smattering of fans, but you have absolutely nothing. And the victim consciousness and this fucking poor me stuff coming from her, right? It's 100% your fault.
There is a serious epidemic of dehumanization plaguing this country.
It is. And I want you guys to knock it off.
The most unthinkable tragedies have now become commonplace in our daily headlines, and yet the media finds a way to conveniently explain away violence.
Boom.
This is what we're up against.
You're up against the media, but you believe that the media is all bullshit and fake news, but you expect us to believe your bullshit patsy theory with your furry-loving fucking assassin? I mean, you can't have it both ways. Either the mainstream media is great, because the mainstream media, the left-wing media, all says that they think Tyler Robinson did it. And they're not calling bullshit on that fake assassin, all the other fake shit in there. And none of them are saying you did it, right? So this is coming from right-wing people. And many of them were former fans of your husband, right? Or friends, like in Candace Owens' case.
This is what we're up against.
Who's we? Who the fuck is we? You don't have anybody with you. You're a bunch of your gay dudes over there. Your fake Republican gay dudes over there.
What is happening right now is something none of us can afford to ignore. The evil forces working to divide us, to distract us, and to pull us apart has never been stronger. This is a moment for Americans.
Okay, so to be divided, you have to have both. You can't have one evil side. You can't say it's the liberal media and the liberals that are dividing you. The Republicans also, there has to be a right-wing division. There has to be right-wing propaganda and left-wing propaganda. You can't have one side be right and one side be wrong, or there's no division, right? And so you guys constantly shit on the left. I mean, we hear you guys talk about the lefties, those fucking lefties, those stupid lefties. That's all your fucking gay dudes talk about over there, right? Fucking left. You were talking about the left earlier. So, as long as you demonize the left, there's going to be division. When you call the other side demons, that you're on the side of God and they're on the side of demons, then there's only a demonic, there's some kind of, biblical like war is the only outcome of that. When your enemies are demons, then you can't do shit about it, right? And so, like you're trying to make Trump into some fucking saint, and he's an absolute piece of shit, right? Epstein and all the rest of it.
To come together and decide what kind of country we are going to be before we lose our country altogether. In Romans chapter 12, verse 21, it says,
I was hoping you would fucking quote the Bible.
Not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good.
Boom. You're such a good person. You're such an example with those scary fucking crazy eyes that you do. Is that your way of overcoming evil with good?
And this is why my husband created Turning Point USA, so we could have civil discourse and debate and open dialogue. Because when we stop...
Okay, so why don't you debate somebody? Why don't you debate Candace Owens? Why don't you bring Candace Owens on and debate her? Why don't you go, she wanted to do the thing in public. Why don't you bring her on your show and debate her? Or have those other guys do it. Let her bring her, what she considers her facts and whatever it is. And you talk about the tweets about Israel and Charlie Kirk getting upset about it and all these things. Talk about the Tyler Robinson bullshit stuff and the bullet and all these things. Why don't you bring her on and debate? This is you inherit this company. I haven't seen one fucking debate. Nobody's debating the TPUSGay anymore. You have a couple of guys, who chastise their audience and giggle and fucking pat each other on the back like they're rocking it, and as they get hammered in the fucking comment section, right? Why don't you debate somebody? Why don't you debate people about all these things? Why don't you take some? It would be Candace Owens. Everyone would pay to see that shit, right? Put up on pay-per-view.
Talking to each other, bad things happen. I am choosing to fight for America.
Are you? How are you doing that? By saying, I just want to go home.
For my children, for your children, and for our humanity.
Our humanity.
Because we all need to do our part.
We all need to do it. We do. We need to do our part. We just need to do our part.
And by the grace of God, we will succeed, and America will remain what she was always called to be, a shining city on a hill, a light to the world. So let me give you a perfect example of how it's done. My husband did it best and left us the blueprint on how to have uncomfortable conversations with those who disagree. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
That was so fucking gay. Holy shit. I gotta watch that like 10 more times.
Have uncomfortable conversations with those who disagree. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
Wow. Oh, that was great. That was a fun. Where's the smile? I thought you wake up every day. What do you mean buckle up? What are you going to do? Are you going to come on the show and regularly like go after? I mean, you know, you'd have to debate people. Like are you going after people? What's happening? Like this is like what happened? I just want to go home with that fucking fake crying shit that you did. All right. So that was amazing. That's going to be it for today. I don't know if I should I'll put this at the end of the video, like I promised, because it's just the way it went. But absolutely wonderful. This is going to be memed and everything. Okay, congratulations, you big meaners. You've broken Erika. So I guess that'll be the title of this video. And, you know, TPUSGAY. Whatever. So I was going to say something else, and I don't know what it was, so I'll wait. If it comes back to me, I'll say it. I had one comment to get to, then I did a voiceover for my Gratefulness Meditation channel to go talk further about this idea of dumping your sins on somebody else. Making somebody else bear the consequences for your sins, which, you know, even if we say it out loud like that, it should be a fucking, you know, a deal breaker, right? Just something, you know, no good person would want to do. But anyways, one of my viewers wrote this comment here. Thanks so much, Paul. I find the main issue is people think spirituality is some sort of magical, otherworldly, mystical crap, when it's really about how we act here on earth and how we treat each other, our realm, and all other forms of life, etc. Blessings, everybody. So I kind of mostly agree with this person's comment. You know, I think the part that people believe that it's some sort of magical, otherworldly, and mystical crap. But this idea that it's about how we treat each other is not really it. Like, that's, you know, one way of looking at it. Like, spirituality and your relationship with God can be looked at on many different levels. You know, as long as there's some sort of acknowledgement of divinity, there's something spiritual there. Like some, you know, idea of something on the other side. You have your material life, but there's also something to do with God, right? And so whatever people practice in terms of, you know, what people call forms of worship, because what I do isn't a form of worship. You know, God isn't meant to be worshipped. God is meant to be interacted with, right? God is meant to be consulted and to be, you know, to be merged with inevitably, right? So there's various layers of it. But treating people well and behaving well, like that's just something you should do. That's more in terms of who you are materially. But it's really about what you are in the inside, right? Because you can treat people well. There's lots of people who seem nice on the outside. In fact, it's one of the teachings of the Sajmark system that there are people who have a heart like a mango. Like a mango is a soft fruit and a hard seed on the inside. And so there's softness on the outside, but inside they have a hard heart. They're hard of heart. And you'll see it. Like you see people who you consider just the nicest people. And then their darkness comes out. and you see they lack, empathy. They really don't have the capacity to love, but they're really good because they are covering up for what their heart's like, and so they put on a false face. I mean, they have a hard heart, and they cover it up with a soft personality, and everyone thinks they're great and nice, but it's not true. So that's not spirituality, right? Whereas people with a soft heart often have a crusty external. They compare it to a coconut, for example, or an almond. Something with a hard outside shell and then a soft internal heart, right? And so people with a soft heart are going to be more protective of their heart because of the pain they feel and the sensitivity they have, right? And so, when I talk about spirituality here, what my understanding of spirituality is in the Sajmark system that I do, the meditation, it's about moving closer and closer to God. It's going on a spiritual journey. It's not the experiences you have. There are infinite amount of spiritual points, and there are blissful experiences that all of us have meditating that are so pleasurable and so, they feel so great. You don't want to leave. And so you're on your spiritual journey, and you're like, well, why don't I just stay here? I feel so great. I'm so happy. I'm so, I feel just everything like that I want to feel. Why don't I just stay here? Why should I go any further? And so, that's, again, not spirituality. Those are spiritual experiences, mystical experiences that you can have. And those things don't do anything if you're not moving forward. Just like anything else, you have experiences, and that doesn't mean you're on a journey, right? It doesn't mean that you're approaching your destination. It means that you're having an experience, which our experiences are great, but what does the experience do for you to motivate you to go further on your spiritual journey? So there's no stagnant position on your spiritual journey. Like, everyone's on a spiritual journey because you have a soul. But are you going backwards? Are you going away from your soul's destination, which is to return to the source? Or are you moving forwards? And so only, when you're moving forwards is you have spirituality and you have a spiritual journey. If you're moving backwards, then no. You're going in the wrong direction. So it's just moving forwards. And whatever that means for whatever you're on your spiritual journey, whatever stage you're on, there's various levels of the thing, right? But you have to be moving forward. You have to be going inward. You have to be returning to the source. And that's a reflection of who you are on the inside. Spirituality is 100% internal. It has nothing to do with your external world. It affects who you are as a person, and you become a better person in the external world. But your journey is internal. So, people are, they mistake things like going to church is not spiritual. Like going and doing something in the, material world. But if you go there and you think about God, and you're, in some way, and you start to move forward on your spiritual journey, then it is, right? But going to church itself, the act of going there, it's like anything else. If you can close your eyes and meditate, but are you meditating on divine light or the abstract idea of God in your heart? Like, are you meditating on something that's moving you forward spiritually? Because meditation itself doesn't guarantee that it's spiritual, right? If you're going to have depraved thoughts when you're meditating, if you're going to have, feelings of anger and hatred and things, well, then no, that's the opposite. You're creating things that block your spiritual journey. So you can close your eyes. That doesn't mean you're meditating. It doesn't mean you're connecting to God, right? So, you have to have the proper approach in in terms of you have to be moving forward in your connection to God on your spiritual path. So that's what your approach is, like how close you are to divinity. And you have to have a system that helps you do that. And so, there needs to be a system. There needs to be a method. There needs to be, something that delivers you. Like, if you're going from, New York to California to LA, you can't just start walking across the Atlantic Ocean and expect to get there, or swimming, canoeing. Like, yeah, you're going to go somewhere, but probably you're not going to end up in LA. You're going to end up in Europe if you're lucky, but probably you're not going to make it at all. You're going to end up in the bottom of the ocean, right? So, you have to have a proper method. You have to have a proper vehicle to take you on your journey. And so there's all these things. Like, you have to have something that actually works to get you there, that's moving you forward, a system that moves you forward, a method to move you forward. These are all the important things. And so if you don't have any of those things, then, what are you doing? Where are you going, right? Like, you can't follow somebody who hasn't reached the goal themselves. Someone who's giving you directions and guiding you on your path, and they haven't gone there. There's all these fake gurus and fake people out there that don't know what they're doing, fake religions. The religion itself, like, guaranteeing you heaven isn't spiritual, right? That means when you die, you're going to something else on a spiritual plane of existence. Doesn't mean you've made any progress. Yeah, when you die, your soul's going to go somewhere. You can call it heaven, you can call it what the fuck you want, but it isn't, you're not moving forward spiritually. So it's really about what's happening internally and what the efficacy of your method and whether you're actually connecting to God and thinking about God. The way you treat people and the way that you react to people in the material world is a reflection of what you are on the inside. So, if you are kind to people, but deep down you're like, oh, I hate this motherfucker, right? If you're thinking negative thoughts about people, well, then, then that's not who, you're not kind. You're acting kind, right? Like, acting isn't spirituality. Like, putting on a false face isn't spirituality. Spirituality is truth, like being truthful of what you are and how you feel. And then saying, well, if I'm feeling negativity, then I better change, right? Like, first being honest about what you feel and then realizing that it doesn't suit you, it doesn't help you move forward. So you have to change. Anyways, I'm starting to lose my voice here. I did this long voiceover this morning. So let me put that here, and this video will be up tomorrow, Thursday at 2, and then another video up Friday at 9 p.m., and then Saturday will be off, and then we'll start all over again on Sunday. But here's the voiceover. Okay, so, it came the day before the Babaji gathering. Today is day 1, and my wife and I just did the first morning meditation. It was really good. I felt really like there's some, like, I don't know. I mean, all these gatherings are special, these spiritual gatherings, but, there's like something different that's happened, right? There's a change. And so each one has gotten better that we've done here, collectively, individually. Somebody asked a question about, if I do the sittings, and I don't do the sittings because there's no reason for it, like as a preceptor. And I'll get into that more as the gathering goes on, but you just sit at home at your convenience and meditate for, 45 minutes to an hour, in the morning and sometime in the evening. The convenience is the best part about it in terms of, separated from going to a gathering. Going to a gathering, you're just in it. Like, you're at this, if you go to the ashram, when we used to have such things before the Daji debacle, and you're just like in it. Like, the problem with doing it at home is you have your normal life. Like, you go to work or whatever, even if you take work off, you're just, you're living your normal life. But when you go to the ashram, it's just like 100%. Every minute is just, you're being saturated with this spiritual energy condition. But anyways, there's, something, special brewing, I think, and I'll talk about that as I do updates on this gathering. But I had some thoughts about this thing with Jesus, and I thought this, was like a good kickoff to the gathering. When I was made a preceptor, I spent 5 weeks in India, and I just went through it, right? I just, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I just took it's spiritual cleaning. Like, all this grossness and stuff is being cleaned for me so I could become a preceptor. And I just, I was restless and crawling out of my skin. I got food poisoning really bad. I thought I was going to die. I wasn't able to process or digest water for about 3 or 4 days. It was just running through me, and I couldn't eat or anything like that. It was just, the whole thing. And at the end of that, I got these preceptor sittings, which was deep cleaning from, I think 3 or 4 different preceptors. I think like 4 of them maybe. I got 8 sittings, and 3 of them were from, so 5 sittings. I think I got 2 from one preceptor, and then these were senior people who had been doing the meditation for a while. And, years, like 20, 30, 40 years, like older senior people. And I got 3 from Master Charji. And there was a day where I had this pain in my stomach, like just a sharp pain. And I knew it was part of the whole cleaning thing, like it was just there. And word came out that Chargy couldn't give a group meditation because he had stomach pain, the same pain that I had. And, I knew that it had something to do with me, right? Like I was being worked on and I was being created as a preceptor. And, the cleaning I was going through, he was in it, right? And like as the master of the system, he sometimes, there was when I had gotten to India, Chargy, used to go around the ashram and he'd point at the limbs that that there would be some guy with some worker there that would, these volunteers that would stay at the ashram, usually younger guys taking maybe like a gap year. And they were called inmates, and they would get up in the tree and they would cut down the limb. Like he would point at a limb or something like that. Like I saw him do that. And we were supposed to go to the Himalayas. He was going to travel north of India and go to the Himalayas. He was picking out a place to put an ashram. Eventually they built this amazing ashram up there that the spiritual condition is supposed to be like just sublime. Everyone goes there. It's like you take kind of like a vow of silence. You speak as little as possible. And you're just supposed to focus like for 3 days on your internal condition. You don't stay there that long. You stay there for 3 days and just go inward for 3 days. It's as much of your energy either meditating or reading or journaling or doing your diary and things like that. But anyways, he couldn't come because he broke his toe. And then I heard the story from people that he was out and there was one of these workers. And the worker fell out of the tree, and Chargy had said something to him right before he fell. And the worker fell, and he didn't have a scratch on him. Like he fell out of the tree, and he landed, and he was fine. But Chargy somehow, his toe got broken. And it was like, he took this guy some samskara, like his, whatever, and he, instead of the guy getting hurt, like something that it was supposed to happen to him, Chargy bore the responsibility for these samskaras, these impressions, right? There's another story. There's a guy, a Danish Abhyasi, a guy who practiced, he was one of these 6 Danish people that's made full preceptors. He's put into the mind region, there's the heart region, the mind region, and the central region. He ended up doing the LSD and kind of getting chastised by Babaji, because these guys were like, hippies. But this guy wrote 2 books. I think I have one of them. They've kind of floated around. They were very small books. And he witnessed something. There was this woman named Sister Kastori who was this, saint that was very close to Babaji. She helped prepare Chargy to be the, next master. She used to give him sittings, and Babaji gave her the capacity to heal people. And one time, this guy was there in India, and Babaji had a cold or a sore throat or something. He was coughing a little bit. And Sister Kastori, he could tell, took it from him, like took his sickness, like, which isn't really part of the Sajmark's system because, your miseries are divine blessings. You suffer them because it's good for you to suffer, right? But he, this guy witnessed, Sister Kastori started to cough, like she had somehow absorbed his illness. And Babaji then took it back, like then he started to cough, and he was watching this go back and forth, right? This taking the other people's suffering, right? And so, I knew that because of whatever I was going through, that Chargy was suffering physically. And I felt bad about it. Like I just, who wants that? Like who wants to be such a piece of shit that you're causing someone else to suffer, right? Like, he, was making me a preceptor so I could do work and, but it motivated me to do better, right? Like, whatever I'd done in the past, whatever things that needed to be cleaned out. I mean, the last sitting that he gave me, I went to his house, and it was the most powerful cleaning I ever received doing the Sajmark system. And, it was like there was a 200-mile-an-hour spiritual wind. Like you see in in the scene in The Wizard of Oz where Dorothy's in the house and everything's swirling around her. And these things are, There's a woman who's kind of like the witch in the movie in Kansas, and she's riding her bike. Dun, 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 dun. They got this song that goes with her. and she's up in this tornado and everything's swirling around her. Like I just had all these thoughts, and a lot of them were not good ones, right? And they were just flying out of my system. Like it was like this powerful. And at the end of it, I felt amazing, right? And so, I didn't want to add to his burden. Like now that he had done this work on me, like this cleaning, all this stuff that had been cleaning out, undesirable things, and I mean, I wasn't the only person that felt this way. Some people didn't get it because they were, too self-involved. But I, always felt like I had, there was a part of the Sajmark system where you guard your condition. You don't make choices and do things and watch things and indulge in things that'll leave grossness that now you're a spiritual master, the person and the, your preceptor and, all these, these people that are working on you have to clean out, right? Like you have to live in a way that you don't create more grossness for yourself. And a big part of that's even if you have to experience things. I worked in intense jobs as a counselor and whatever it was, right? And, you'd hear things and, I mean, gross things. I worked at these treatment centers with these sex offenders. It's just brutal, stressful environment with people who are very degraded. And, like you're dealing with their issues as a clinician. Like I had to do, this kind of structured therapy where these kids would have to admit what they did. And, it's just, I mean, it's not hearing that stuff isn't great, right? But you can do all these things by remembering God, bringing God into it, bringing the Divine Master into it, and then you don't absorb the grossness, like you don't create impressions, right? Whatever you're doing in life. But this is in reference to this thing with Jesus. I didn't want to feel like I was adding to the burden of Chargy, who was, physically his older person, and he was, he put physical energy into, I mean, his time and his energy. Like when you're doing a cleaning as a preceptor, you go into somebody's internal condition and you use your will force and your life force, your energy, and the transmission that flows through you is divine energy. But you have your effort where you're spending time cleaning out somebody's internal world, and sometimes it's unpleasant. When I was made a preceptor, this guy Don Savarin, he said when he gave his first sitting, he was giving this sitting to a woman. And he sat there and he had the thought, the Divine Master's giving this meditation, this sitting. And he saw this, visually he saw that there was a door. And so he, mentally, imagined that he went and opened the door. And when he did this, all this like sewage and grossness just flooded out for like 20 minutes. And he was just, experiencing this internally, right? He's meditating and the woman's, meditating across from him like 5 feet away. They're sitting there. And this is what he's experiencing. So he goes and talks to Babaji about it. And Babaji says, well, what did she look like afterwards? Like he goes, well, she had this glow, right? She had this, her face was relaxed. And she had this glow and her inner condition was good. Like her, heart was clean. He said, good, you did your job, right? Like Babaji said that. That's just like part of it. And so, and there's, sometimes it's just you feel things that are unpleasant, and you're there cleaning stuff. And you're doing it like with I don't want to call it imagination because it's not it's something real and spiritual, but it's on a spiritual plane. And it's like like let's say you go sit there and you're meditating and you're imagining sweeping your house, like detailed, sweeping a floor and then washing it. You're just sitting there imagining that, like that's what you're doing basically in someone's internal condition. And it takes energy using your will force. I mean, it takes life force. Like I could give like 4 or 5 sittings a day. Like I think I gave 6 or 7, like some days at gatherings. And then I'd just be fried. Like I'd be, like that's all I could do. Like it would be like I can't do any more of the sittings, right? So, you're putting energy into other people. And people would come and they would get these sittings and they would leave clean. And then they would immediately go and get gross. It's like when you're a little kid, your mom washes your clothes and you go out and you come back filthy again, playing in the mud. I remember there's a time I dug like a 5-foot hole in my backyard, right, with a hose, and I eventually ran into solid rock. Bedrock maybe it was, I don't know. But, it was in Connecticut. But anyways, when I was made the preceptor, I, was very intent in guarding my condition. Like, I didn't want to put on unnecessary grossness. Of course, I had that disastrous marriage and all the stress that went along with that, but I didn't want to add to the burden of the, the spiritual master of the system, who was working all the time, and when he helps you get a pristine condition, right? You didn't want to go and add to it. There was these, again, I think it was a couple of these people from Denmark came over. It was all these boomer hippies, and they went to Babaji's house in northern India, and Charji lived in southern India, in Chennai. And they took a train from northern India to Chennai, probably a 15 hours, whatever train, 20-hour train, maybe multiple trains, to see Charji. And when they got there, they asked him for individual sitting. And he was, again, he was going to be Babaji's, his disciple, his, successor. And he said, "What do you guys do on the train?" Like, he gives him a sitting. And like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, when you left Babaji's house, he would have cleaned you as deeply as he could have. Like, you would have left there in a pristine spiritual condition, like your internal world would be clean." And the way you feel when that happens, because it's happened to me numerous times, where there's just nothing there. Like, there's nothing blocking your connection to God. You're just like, almost like floating. And it lasts for a period of time, and then, real life sets back in. But it's an amazing feeling, right? And they were like, "Well, we did some hash. We smoked some hash, hashish on the train, because they were hippies." And he goes, "Yeah, don't do that anymore." Babaji had always said, only forbidden is forbidden. And then, these hippies took advantage of that, and, but they got gross. They did LSD, they did these drugs, and it fucked up their spiritual condition. And then they had to, they had to get these sittings again, right? And they were adding to the burden of the master. And, when I heard these stories, I'm like, I was kind of stunned by them, but it was a different time. Babaji wasn't chastising people or telling them. He did chastise that one guy for doing the LSD, right? He put him in the mind region, the higher region, the heart region, the mind region, and the central region. And the guy immediately plummeted back down because he decided to do a hallucinogenic drug when he was having these amazing spiritual experiences, right? But adding to the burden of anybody, like, you just don't want to do that. No one wants to feel like a burden, right? I mean, no one wants to feel like a piece of shit that, is making other people suffer. Like, everybody, doesn't like that. Like, when you have a negative effect on other people, when, you have to confront somebody and say, you're dragging me down. People, like, don't want to hear that shit, even though it's true. Like, especially because it's true, right? When somebody's negatively affecting you, by just the way that they are, and, manipulation and lies and being a piece of shit, right? And, nobody really wants that. People don't like to think that they're, even negative people that are angry and hateful and have victim consciousness, they always make up excuses and blame other people. But, if you could do something to prevent the suffering of other people, especially somebody, I'm talking about the spiritual master of the Sajmark system, who's in the same position as Jesus is for Christians. Right, this is your person that's there, and is working on you and helping you. I mean, Jesus didn't have a method, but this is, how the Christians think about it. And so when I talked about this thing about, dying for somebody else's, somebody suffering from your sins, who the fuck would want that? Like, if you really thought about it, I mean, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible, I mean, you'd feel guilty and shitty because that's how I felt. Master Charji, in terms of his effect on me, his life, and the Sajmark system in general, the organization and before Daji wrecked it, which is another thing for him and the people that are there who are complicit in it, right? Like, that's, but most of us, anybody who has any kind of spiritual tendencies, there's some part of you wants to make the world a better place. It gets, for me, it's kind of, it's gone south a little bit because of just all of it, all the things that I've seen and been through. It's there, but like, being like a wide-eyed, when I first started the meditation, how enthusiastic I was. But most people, want to make the world a better place that are spiritual, people who have spiritual tendencies. There's some part of you that wants to, to help people or help the, do something. Like there's just, you have some, it's not your whole thing. Like you can still be selfish in these things, but people want, I mean, this was what people, even Trump with his, he wants to leave a legacy. He wants a Medal of Honor, he wants the Nobel Peace Prize, right? He wants to be known as like somebody who's made the world better, like his buildings and things. People, want to think that they've had a positive contribution. And in the Sajmark tradition, the Babaji has said, at the very least, you want to have, zero impact. Like, if you don't make the world better, that's one thing. But at least just don't make it worse. And, the internet is a good example of how thoughts and in someone's internal world, because people think about actions and words, and that's something, but it's who you are as a person. And, I was lucky enough to meet not just the master of the Sajmark system, but there are some serious saints, like these amazing people I came across, I interacted with, who just exude, godly energy and devotion. And they were just service-oriented, and they did everything in their power to do God's work, and they were just amazing people. And even, my mom had these nuns over for prayer meetings even before at Sajmark, and they weren't, they didn't have the good, the great system that Sajmark helps you, the energy that's there, transmission stuff, but there are people like that. And maybe you've known some people like that just make you feel better. And they pull out your better side. They pull out your higher nature when you're around them. And then, of course, there's people who pull out your lower nature, who have a selfish, criminal attitude, and, people with negativity. And when you're around them, you feel negativity. Like, people say when they listen to my videos and they feel upbeat and they feel, it has a positive effect on them because of, the energy that is flowing through all the people who do the meditation. So we would go to these gatherings and we'd be filled with this positive energy, this transmission. And they were supposed to go out into our communities and just let the energy just flow, right? We didn't have to really do anything, but, not do anything that was going to stop it, right? Keep a sort of detached attitude and, keep guard our spiritual condition, right? Whatever we received, make it last as long as possible, before the, the stresses and the bullshit of our material lives eventually brought us back to a, lower place, right? But like, as long as we could retain that, we could have a positive effect, these subtle particles that are flowing off you. And when you're around a saint or a higher developed soul, the energy that they exude when you're around them, you don't want to leave their presence, right? And they're just exuding this loving energy, this subtle godly energy. And then you find it in places like ashrams and places that are charged, some churches, some temples, but, the ashrams are a good example. And then some natural places where you go, by the ocean, these other places where you feel better and cleaner, and you're on these places that people go on vacation where there's better energy than the stress of the city, right? And then there's people, and when those people are around you, they're giving positive energy to you, and you're giving kind of grossness to them, right? Because you're at a lower level. I mean, depending on your where you are. And so the best thing you can do is work towards not purposely choosing to do things and have thoughts and, indulge in negativity and complaints and ingratitude and all the things for victim consciousness, because you're leaving that energy here and you're affecting other people with it, right? And so, making the world a better place by having, a connection to divinity and allowing God to flow through you as a conduit. That's the beautiful part of the Sajmark system. So one last thing about this. So my family and I were leaving India in 2016, and it was the Babaji gathering that's now happening. So it was, and we went to the new ashram, the ashram that was built in Hyderabad that had a meditation hall that was going to seat whatever it was, it's like 100,000 people. Like, it was just being worked on then. And my kids and I were going to leave like a couple weeks after that. It was our last big thing. And there was a doctor we had known. This doctor was like an arrogant, like he talked about his own arrogance, quite regularly. And, he was, being a doctor or an engineer in India is like a big thing. They celebrate people like if you're like in charge of the electrical company or the sanitation department, like you become a a high-ranking official, you're like celebrated like a celebrity. Like you're like a mini guru, celebrity type person. People follow you around. Like if you become a boss of a company, like there's a celebrity status in India. This Mahatma, Mahatma Gandhi, which means great soul, and it's a very odd thing. And this guy was, anybody who's a doctor or anybody who does well on tests and excels in school, I mean, they really celebrate academia there. And this guy was like a good-looking, smart, and he became a doctor, so he got really arrogant, right? Like people were, thinking he was like great, and he told this story, right? This, in charge, he used to, like, he would go and he would be like, one of Chargie's like, doctors. Chargie had alternative healers and people that would come to him. He was older, and he would say stuff like allopathic medicine sucks. Not he wouldn't use the word sucks, but and he'd run the guy down, and he'd provoke the guy to rage. Like he'd make the guy, because he was pulling the guy's anger out, right? Like he was trying to clean the guy's anger and arrogance. And every time he saw him, Chargie would like, sort of tease him and like get into him about us, like because he was like an arrogant. This guy would tell the story, right? And eventually, the guy learned how to do past life regressions as part of his, being a doctor. Like he realized that allopathic medicine was limited, and he added some of these things. And when I talked to him, I thought he was arrogant, right? So I was like, I was wondering how bad he was back then. But this guy gives a talk. He's at this gathering. Chargie's now dead. And it's Dodgy is becoming the next master. And this is before Dodgy went full piece of shit, right? Like he was, like nobody saw it coming or knew. And he talked about how Dodgy got sick right before the gathering. And, these gatherings would have 20,000 people at them, 15, 20,000 people. And he talked about how Chargy would get so sick before these gatherings. And, part of the reason was he had to start cleaning everybody. Like everybody had to go through a cleaning process. And he had to make sure everyone got there safely. Like he had to wrap his consciousness around it. Like I've told that story about how Babaji, one guy came to Babaji to visit him. And, Shah Jahanpur, Babaji lived in a, very remote village type place in a little town in northern India. And it was hard to get there. People would take these trains in at 2 a.m. to this kind of dirty village. And, like they would, Europeans and Americans, and they get off the train looking for Babaji's house. Like, he would have people come and stay with them. There was just a handful of people who did the meditation. And some guy came to visit him, and the guy, asked if he could stay another week, and Babaji said, sure. And the guy said, and that week went by, and he said, can I stay another week? And Babaji said, no, you didn't lock your door at your house. This guy lived, hundreds of miles away. You didn't lock your door, and I've been watching over your house, but I need my energy for other things, so I can't do this, I can't make sure that nobody, in India, they have bars on the windows. So, like, there's windows and then there's bars, so, people can't break. There's a different level of crime. And, and so the guy remembered locking his door, so he doesn't know what the fuck he was talking about. So he goes back home. In India, they have, like a metal box that goes over the deadbolt. And the metal box is there so people can't get in with a saw or whatever. And he had locked the deadbolt, but he didn't push the door closed enough, so the deadbolt missed, and the door wasn't locked. And it was he had locked it, but it was open because the lock didn't connect with the hole that's supposed to go in, right? So, and he was like, holy shit, how did he know that, right? Because there's this consciousness to watch over people, and the whole gathering was intense, deep cleaning and things. And this doctor said Chargy would get sicker and sicker each passing gathering, to the point he was almost like in a coma, like he was so sick. And then they were like, we got to cancel the gathering, and we couldn't, there's tens of thousands of people coming, right? At the very minimum, 10,000, but also often 20, 30,000, depending, some were, more attended than others. But they'd be about to cancel it. They want to cancel, and Chargy would go, no, don't cancel it. And then the day of the gathering, he'd be 100%, like just, miraculous recovery. And so, and I kind of understood why that happened, like just from these experiences. And this is a difference of when you start having a spiritual life. You understand all the stories about Jesus, or you understand all the stories about, the real ones about any spiritual person, any saint, because, you're experiencing these things and you're watching these things happen and you're, whatever. And so, like understanding that you don't want to contribute to that burden, like, these, like the master of the system was suffering to help other people. And, it's one thing if they suffer and help you once, like when I was made a preceptor, but if I came back and, I had lived a life where I was all grossed out, I came back and brought more grossness and had to be cleaned again. It's just, nobody wants to be that piece of shit, right? And like, so that's, if you understand that with this idea of Jesus, right? Like, you're responsible for your own spiritual condition, and you wouldn't want to burden somebody else with it. And especially like what happened with Jesus, that, he suffered that, that's all lies. That's all some bullshit religious thing. But these people, are actively thinking about this. And it makes you feel like a piece of shit that your sins are caused his suffering, right? It's causing you more grossness, guilt, and shame, and all these things because you're just being told that you can't do anything about it because you're a worthless piece of shit sinner. It's a horrible. It's anti-spiritual. Like it's for one, you don't take any responsibility, but for two, they limit you because you have a soul. Everyone has a soul. Everyone has the potential to be a spiritual master. Everyone has the potential to be a saint. And everyone should be working on that. Like there should be some thought about it. And people, and you want to, like your soul wants that to happen. Like there's the best version of you that's inside of you that's waiting to come out. And every person has that. And the Christian religion negates all that, says that, no, that's not true. Don't do that. Don't even think that way. And it's really, really bad for you. It's like worse. It's anti-spiritual. It's demonic. It's devil worshiping, right? It's turning you into, you're only a demon, right? You have a potential demon, which is your ego, and you have a potential saint, which is your soul. You have both things, right? You don't have just one thing. But they just say, oh, you just have one thing. You just have, you're a demon, and you won't be anything else, so we have to, send my only son to die for you, worthless pieces of shit. So it's a horrible, it negates your whole spiritual side. And so, and again, and these Christians never think about this because they've been indoctrinated to this, horrible model of, it's blocking their full potential as a spiritual person. Not in an arrogant way, like I'm going to be Jesus, like that, that worthless person Paula White is saying, like I'm going to be anointed, all these things that they say, like all the, that's an ego. That's an ego talking, right? Being a spiritual, like embracing your spiritual side is negating your ego. It's never you. It's never I. It's allowing the divinity to flow through you. Your higher nature can, the master within, the divine being within you, can always do better than your ego can do. Like, as great of a person as you might be, as efficient as, if you let God flow through you, even if you're like the greatest musician, you're the most talented and you have the best skills, you have to let divinity flow through you. You have to get out of your own way. Your ego gets out of the way of your soul. And somebody who does that takes it to another level, right? You're limited. Like you're limited to your physical capabilities and to your egotistical abilities. And as smart as you might be or talented as you might be, when you're able to get out of the way and let divinity flow through you in any capacity and anything you're doing in life, you'll go to another level, right? A level that you can't access or reach as a person. That's that great quote from Master Charji, that it should be understood that the highest part of the lower, or the lowest part of the higher, is still higher than the highest part of the lower. So the spiritual life, when someone's on a spiritual path, you're accessing a different level, not because you're great or not because you're, whatever. Like that's why when people talk about Jesus or anybody being great, it demeans the whole thing. It's the ability to get out of your own way. It's ability for your ego to surrender to your soul. And so, somebody on the material plane who's the greatest material person is still on a lower level than the lowest person on this who's just starting to be on a spiritual path. Like once you embrace this idea that you're letting divinity flow through you and you're connecting to your higher nature and you're minimizing your ego, then God comes through you and does the work for you. And when God does the work, it's better. Like it's always better, whatever it might be, or whatever, when God comes through you and lives your life, you'll live a better life and be a better person. And so, that's the true whatever. All right. So, I think that sums it up. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse. And the ascension, everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.